Gents, when I say iconic UFC moments, what comes to mind? Not only inside the octagon, but outside the octagon as well. You know, it could be something funny, something dramatic. For me, I'll always remember Conor McGregor when he fought Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205 to become double champion. And, you know, I feel like the sport at the time soared to a new height. You know, not only because of how well Conor performed in this fight, of course, the 3 knockdowns in the first round, but just because of what it did for the company. I think the company was sold for $4 billion only a few months prior to that, and it sort of finally felt like we were back page newsworthy, and this to me will always stand out as a landmark moment for the sport of mixed martial arts, and that image there of Conor holding the belt will always stick out for me. Rob?
Well, so this is the fight, I guess, the fight sequence, because it's not the entire fight, it's just one part of a fight. That if I'm trying to get someone into the UFC or I want to show somebody something cool and I want to really highlight how dynamic and how exciting the UFC is, it's Pat Barry versus Chet Congo. The knockdown, the transitions that happen from there, just the way, the roller coaster of events that little fight clip was. And that would, to me, in a nutshell, is what the UFC represents. It's dynamic. It's rife with opportunity. The fight isn't over until the bell has rung, and it is just this is the clip I show anybody that I'm trying to explain why the UFC is the company that it is.
The way Chet Congo goes down that second time is remarkable, and just to come back from this,
his knee folds in like he's done and cooked. But props to the referee for understanding that Chet Congo was still there in some regard. But, mate, he went out on his shield.
Mate, you could definitely see the ref stopping that fight many times during that one while Pat Barry was all over him, and then to see that switch up. I remember watching that and I was just like, how did that just happen?
Yeah.
Absolutely blew me away.
It's one of the craziest sequences I've ever seen. And like I said, that's what I show people when I'm trying to get them into the sport and show them why it is what it is.
Absolutely.
Exciting stuff.
Volk, do you have one?
Yeah, well, man, I was going to ask you, when the dolly through the bus, what event was that? Because I remember all the commotion before that. That was New York.
Yeah.
That one sort of comes to mind as well. So obviously that was a lead up into their big fight, which was just something that we're always going to remember. The chaos that happened, not only during that fight, even well before. Like, I just remember the dolly through that and the chaos that went around it, but a lot of crazy Conor McGregor moments, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Fun fact, I was there for that event. I'm pretty sure that was GSP and Bisping.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But I was there. I was in the other bus.
Was it?
The other bus.
Oh, you were?
So there was another bus, was there?
Because I remember things going crazy there and everyone was like moving around, shuffling around, and then it wasn't until I got back to the hotel room where I looked up on social media and everyone was like, wow, did you see it? Were you in the bus? Because I wasn't in the fighters bus, but I was there as a guest, and then they shuffle you around. I was in the back room at the time, and I was there.
You wouldn't have been a happy chap if you were in the bus that Conor attacked.
Oh, definitely not. Didn't some of the fighters' eyes get hurt because of the glass?
There was an issue. I think Rose got hurt. Yeah, a few fighters got hurt, I think.
Yeah, Rose was a little distraught from it all, actually. I remember her talking about it. But people got a couple of cuts and things like that. Chaos.
It built up to the biggest event that the UFC had ever seen to that point, UFC 229. One of the ones that I remember is, I'll always laugh when I see it, is Vanderlei Silva and Chael Sonnen at the set of The Ultimate Fighter in Brazil. And that confrontation for me will always be funny. It's always going to be... whenever I see it on social media, I always watch it in its entirety because it's just so good.
I can't let you get close.
That's become a meme now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a meme. So, you know things are going good when it's a meme, that's for sure. You know it's a big moment.
I feel like it's resurged more so lately than that I can't let you get close meme. I feel like it's resurged more lately than it was at the time even.
You know what? I actually met Vanderlei at 298 when he was inducted, and he's such a nice guy, but this is just a moment that is so meme-worthy.
I feel like Vanderlei, I look at him and I can see him being absolutely off the rails crazy. But in saying that, I can also picture him being a super nice guy. Like, unless you're on that side of the fence, and you're on his list, he loves you. Like, you know what I mean? That's just the feeling I get. I've never met him.
Good dude till you cross him, that's for sure.
It's always great looking back at the great moments that made the UFC what it is, and who better to help us do that than the man we're about to speak to, Bruce Buffer, the legendary Octagon announcer. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us on Fox Sports Australia. What an honour it is.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor for me, too.
Now, Bruce, you are someone who's been synonymous with the UFC for so long. If you could even put into words what the past 25, 30 years of your life has been.
Well, I celebrated 28 years in the Octagon last month, and all I can tell you is that it's just every day I wake up, wearing UFC on my chest as I'm doing right now. I'm very proud of it. It's every show I do, like this weekend, Saturday at UFC 300, you'll never hear me talk about past shows beyond, past great fights or whatever, as far as what I did or what I do. I've got to prove to myself and to the fighters, the fans, and the powers that be, Dana White and everybody, that I deserve this job every night I walk out. So come Saturday, to me, it's like time to prove to myself to do and perform the way I'd love to do, and the passion I love to put on the floor, because I'm a huge UFC fan and I love my job. And these warriors, men and women both, are the greatest fighters in the world. And all in abundance are some of the greatest people you'll ever meet. I'm just honored to be there. So I consider it very special. I always stay very humble about everything. The show's not about me. It's about the fighters, and it's for the fans.
Hey, Bruce, Rob here. And, just jumping off that, it's good to speak to you. I can see the investment you have in the fighters themselves. I can see the energy and the professionalism you bring into every single fight on the card. I've got to ask you, some of these nights are so long. Once you've done 1 shows, 10 shows, 100 shows, how do you stay so invested in the fighters themselves and in, just giving your best performance, like you said yourself, like giving your best performance every single night?
Well, thanks, Robert. Thanks for the kind words, and thanks for dressing better than me this time. What's up with that? Again, I'll get back to it. I am so honored to have this position, and I'm so passionate about my work. And being in the martial arts background that I have, I've been training since I was 12 in various. I have 3 black belts. I kickbox heavily for 10 years, and fighting's in my DNA. My grandfather was champion of the world in boxing in 1921, and my dad was training me fighting, from an early age, from 6 years on. I just have such a fighter mentality. And I know the fighter mentality very well that you hold, Robert, and you too, Alex. My respect factor for you gentlemen, along with the ladies that walk into the Octagon and every other person, is huge. And it's that respect factor for what you do and understanding what you do and having a feeling for what you do that drives me passionately to do what I do. And my love for it so much is one that I just don't go in and, I don't go in and just phone it in. Don't go in to do a job. If it comes to like that for me and I can't passionately do what I do, I'm going to hang up my mic and retire. I'll be done. I'm not just going to do this for a great seat and a paycheck. I do it because I love it, and I love watching you warriors put your blood, sweat, and tears on the Octagon floor. It's an amazing experience to announce and work in my favorite sport. My other favorite sport is surfing, but my favorite sport is mixed martial arts. I love it. It's the best I can tell you, Robert. It's my love for the sport.
And thank you so much for the honest answer.
Hey, Bruce.
My pleasure.
Sorry, mate. Hey, Bruce, how are you? Alex here. I just wanted to, you're so good at working the crowd out, like working them up, getting them ready. As Rob was saying, you do such a great job doing that. But I wanted to see, you've been to so many events. UFC 300 is obviously going to be another big event. What is one of the best crowds you've ever been been involved in?
And again, thank you, Alex, for looking as dapper as you look right now. I should have put on a different shirt. Listen, every country, every city has its own flavor. Whether you're in Rio de Janeiro, whether you're at the O2 Arena in London, which is one of the most exciting, the fans there, they go crazy. Montreal, the O2 Arena there, Madison Square Garden, the mecca of, fights that have happened in the last century. But I got to be honest, I'm always honest, pardon me. I hate when people say that. I have no reason to lie. Going down under, going to Sydney, going to Melbourne, going to Perth as we're doing this year. Australian fans, New Zealand fans, Auckland fans, you're in a world of your own. 10,000 sound like 100,000. And they're so appreciative of you as the warriors that you are, as I am. It's like we're all just one huge fan base, just having a great time. So the amount of excitement that happens in a Melbourne arena and, Sydney arena it's huge. So I have to say it's one of my favorite areas to announce, most definitely.
Well, that's incredible. I imagine so many Aussie fans will be stoked to hear what you just said, Bruce. Thank you very much for saying that. One more before you go, Bruce. If I could just ask, not only
you can ask two.
Not only in terms of a moment, but is there a fighter for you that stands out as the best that you've ever announced? Someone that you watched perform and just said, wow, this guy or this girl is something else?
You're sharing the studio with two of them right now. I can't even go beyond that. I mean, you've got Alex Volkanovski. You got Robert Whittaker. And I'm not just saying this because I'm looking at both you gentlemen. You're two of the greatest fighters that have ever stepped foot in the octagon. You've proven it over and over and over again. Sure, I can mention others, George St. Pierre and John Jones, of course. We'll all respect him being the GOAT that he is. The beauty of the UFC is there's so many great fighters. There's been so many great fights. There's been so many great events. It's impossible, and I'm going to speak for Alex and Robert too. It's probably impossible for any of us to say that there was one great fight that stood above all. There's just so many. And the moment I see the greatest fight, I see the next greatest fight 2 weeks later. Even on a prelim, it doesn't have to be a main event. The first fight of the night on UFC 300 is Cody Garbrandt and Davidson Figueiredo. That's the first fight of the night. If that doesn't tell what the rest of the card is going to be like, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, we've got to thank you for that.
I'm blushing here. This may be my favourite interview ever.
I mean, obviously, you've been in the presence of so many great fighters, and to be talking about us like that, it means a lot. So we appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
I speak the truth, my man. I only speak the truth. So that's the way it is. Again, the fighters are great, and the fans are so good. That's why I do a lot of videos and a lot of audio recordings introducing fans as champions like you gentlemen in the octagon to give them keepsakes for life. I mean, the fans love you. The fans love the UFC. They're just some of the greatest fans in the world. It's just, I want to give back. And you have an app down there called Swish, or people write me at brucebuffer.com. And it's a side business, but we get partial proceeds to charities. But I just love making the fans happy because they do so much for us.
Bruce, what an honor and what a legend. It's honestly remarkable to be able to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time on Fox Sports. We really appreciate it, and we can't wait to see you in action. UFC 300 this Sunday.
Thanks very much. I'll be in action, but we know what's really going to be in action. That's the 26 fighters we're going to see Saturday night. So let's have a great show. Alex, Robert, take care, gentlemen. I'll see you when I see you, okay?
Very soon, mate.
Wow, absolutely incredible.
All right, cheers, boys.
What about that?
Thank you.
Bruce Buffer, an absolute legend. How good was that to be able to hear from the great man?
Mate, it's always good to hear him. He's such a professional too, eh? He's unreal. But yeah, mate, as we were just saying, he's been in front and had the presence of some of the best fighters in the world, and to have us right up there means a lot.
It had me blushing. You can't tell, though. You can't tell. But honestly, to speak to him this way, I could have spoke his ear off for the next couple of hours. Like, I just feel like he has such an insight into the sport, and it was so cool to see the time lapse that you guys put up as we were doing the interview. The time lapse of his tenure in the UFC and through the fights. Like, he goes from being a fighter to being the announcer that he is today. And honestly, he is just so good at his job. You can see the investment and the love and the respect that he has for the fighters every time he steps in there. And honestly, it was really good just to be able to speak to him here.
So we're talking about all the, what he's seen in the octagon, right? Because he's been at so many events. Could you imagine the stories you could get even outside of dealing with fighters, right? Like, fighters are obviously, I think we're pretty chill, cool dudes, but I mean, you're going to get a few characters. So you can imagine what he's seen inside the cage and outside of it. So we could have honestly picked his brains for a long time. But.
And the sport itself has changed dramatically from UFC 10 when he started to today. It is like a different sport.
Have you heard the story of him and Frank Trigg in that elevator punching on?
He was punching on with Frank Trigg?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. Really? That's what I mean. Like, you could imagine the stories that he would have, you know what I mean? Frank Trigg, really?
Yeah. So they were in a lift with Dana White, and then I think Frank said something and they got on each other's nerves, and they basically just started punching on, and his knuckle got exposed. Eventually he had to get stitches that night.
So Bruce Buffer's, he landed. Well, he obviously landed.
He tells a great story. The UFC has it on their YouTube channel. Definitely check it out after this, folks.
Check that out.
Yeah, it's a great yarn. I got to ask, what's it like being able to be announced or introduced by a guy like Bruce Buffer? Because, you know, that's an opportunity afforded to so few.
Well, yeah, I remember my debut. That was a big thing for me. So while I was there, like, you know, you're trying to keep yourself composed. You're walking out, oh, yeah, I'm all good. And then, you know, you just remember Bruce Buffer's announcing my name. Especially, I try not to let that get to me. I remember I was like trying to have a tunnel vision and not let it get to me. But you're still like, oh, wow, that's Bruce Buffer, you know, announcing me. And then afterwards, hand raised, and then him announcing, I'm like, man, it's Bruce Buffer. Like, you know, I got to really enjoy it, like sort of let the emotions fly and just be like, wow, Bruce Buffer is announcing my name. How good's this? So I remember that was a big thing I remember from my debut.
Yeah, it's a little different for me. I really try to block it out. Try to block it out. And I just remember the first time he announced a fight for me. The thing that I remember above all is just how much energy he had, how invested he was, which is kind of why I led with the questions that I did, was because I could just see the energy radiating off him. You can almost see him shaking with adrenaline, like more so than myself. Like I feel like he's about to fight with me almost. And I understand that's what he's trying to get across. Because I remember speaking to him before, and he said that's what he tries to do. He tries to give his energy to the fighters, and you can see it and you can feel it. And I just that's one thing I remember. Since then, I try to block it out just so that I can control my own energy. Too much energy as it is, but yeah, that's what I remember mostly.
No, he's absolutely amazing. We're off to a quick break here on Fox Sports. This is our UFC 300 special. Right after this, we're going to speak with Alex Pereira, Justin Gaethje, and the great George St. Pierre. We're back in a moment.